Welcome to the deep dive. So picture this. You've finally got your ham radio license, the rig is on, and your finger is right there, hovering over the push-to-talk button. But then this question hits you. Okay, what do I actually say? Are there, like, secret rules here?
Hmm.
If that sounds anything like you, well, you're definitely not the only one. Today, we're doing a deep dive into ham radio communication. Specifically, the basic etiquette, the stuff beginners really need to know. We've gone through a really great beginner's guide about talking on the air, pulling out the essentials. Our mission here is pretty simple. Give
Yeah.
you a kind of shortcut so you can feel confident making that first contact without, feeling lost.
Yeah, and it's so important because good etiquette, well, it's not just about being nice, is it?
Right.
It's really the bedrock, is how we make sure communication is effective, enjoyable, and respectful. That's what builds this amazing global community we have on the airwaves.
Okay, so let's get into it. Our source calls this rule number 1 of ham radio.
Cardinal rule.
Always listen before you transmit. Seems obvious, maybe. But why is it so critical? Like, what happens if you don't?
Well, the practical side is huge.
Yeah.
First step, you tune to the frequency you want.
Okay.
And then you just,
Uh-huh.
you wait. You listen. Is there a conversation already happening?
Right. Let it finish.
Exactly. Let it finish.
Yeah.
And if you're on a repeater, you need to listen specifically for its ID tone or maybe a courtesy beep.
Oh, that little sound.
Yeah, that sound tells you the repeater heard the last person, it's reset, and it's clear. But the core idea is just respect for the shared space. You really shouldn't interrupt anyone unless it's a genuine emergency. It keeps everything working smoothly for everybody.
Okay. Makes sense. So you've listened. Frequency's clear. No more butterflies, maybe.
Uh-huh. Maybe.
You're ready to actually talk. How do you start? What's the right way to call CQ, as they say?
Right. Call in CQ, basically asking if anyone's out there for a chat. The way you do it kind of depends on the band.
Okay.
So on HF, high frequency,
Yeah.
that's where signals can travel, worldwide, bouncing off the atmosphere.
The long distance stuff.
Exactly. There, you'd say something pretty standard like, CQ, CQ, this is S21 ABC, calling CQ and standing by.
Let's break that down. CQ means.
CQ just means calling any station. You're not looking for anyone specific. S21 ABC is just an example call sign.
Got it.
And standing by just means you're done talking and you're listening for replies, like an open invitation. But then if you're on VHF or UHF, those bands are more like local, line of sight, mostly used with repeaters.
Okay. Shorter range.
Yeah. So the phrasing is much simpler. You could just say, this is S21 ABC listening on, you'd say the repeater name or frequency,
Yeah.
or even just S21 ABC monitoring. Keeps it brief. And if you do want to talk to someone specific, say, your friend Bob S21XYZ is on.
Yeah.
You just say, S21XYZ, this is S21 ABC. Are you there? Simple as that.
All right. And that moment, someone actually comes back to you. That must feel pretty good after getting ready for it.
Oh, yeah, it's always exciting.
So someone answers your CQ. What's the protocol then? What do you say back?
You need to respond clearly, give them some key info. A good standard response would be something like, S21XYZ, this is S21ABC. Good afternoon. You are 5x9. My name is your name, and I'm located in your QTH location.
Okay, 5x9. You mentioned that's a signal report, RST system.
Exactly. RST stands for readability, strength, and tone. For voice, we mainly use RNS. So 5 means perfectly readable, like crystal clear, and 9 means their signal strength is extremely strong.
So 5x9 is basically perfect copy.
Pretty much the best you can get, yeah. It tells them their signal is getting through great. Very useful, especially for long distance.
And QTH, that's ham speak for.
Just your location,
Yeah.
where you're transmitting from. It's one of the common Q codes, little abbreviations hams use.
Okay. And then once you've done that initial back and forth, what do people usually talk about?
Oh, all sorts of things. Often it's, the weather where you are. People love talking about their radio gear, their antennas.
Sure, the tech stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And often how you got into ham radio, your journey. It helps build that connection.
Now, you mentioned call signs. S21ABC, S21XYZ. That's not just a name, right? There's a legal side to this.
Absolutely. This isn't just etiquette. It's a rule, a legal requirement.
Okay. How does that work in practice?
You must identify using your call sign at least every 10 minutes during a conversation.
Every 10 minutes.
Yep. And also, crucially, at the very end of your transmission, when you sign off.
So it's not optional. It's about accountability.
Exactly. It ensures everyone knows who is transmitting, keeps things orderly, and yeah, it's part of the regulations worldwide.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about what the source calls the Golden Ham etiquette rules. The real do's and don'ts for being a good operator. Let's start with the do's.
Right, the positive stuff. First, like we said, use your call sign clearly. Don't mumble it.
Makes sense.
Speak clearly and maybe a bit slower than normal conversation, especially on HF where signals might fade.
Good tip.
Keep your language clean and respectful. It's universal. And be patient, especially with beginners. Remember, we were all new once.
Absolutely. What else?
Know your limits. Follow the band plan. Know which frequencies you're allowed to use with your license class.
Right. Different licenses have different privileges.
Exactly. And logging your contacts, especially on HF, is really good practice. It helps you keep track, and it's needed for some awards later on.
Okay, those seem like solid practices. Now for the don'ts. What are some things that might trip up a newcomer?
Yeah, some of these are really important. Number one, obvious maybe, but never, ever transmit without a license. That's illegal. Full stop.
Okay, big one.
Then, as we said before, don't interrupt others mid-conversation. Wait for applause.
Respect the flow.
Right. Also, keep things like offensive jokes, politics, or playing music off the air. Ham radio isn't the place for that. It's about communication and technical stuff.
Maintain neutrality. Focus on the hobby.
Precisely. Don't hog the frequency. Don't have a long monologue without letting others speak or letting the repeater reset. Share the airtime.
Good neighbor policy.
Yeah. And this is critical. Don't ever use your ham radio gear on police, fire, or other public safety bands. Hugely illegal, dangerous interference.
Definitely don't do that.
And maybe a smaller one, but if there's a test or contest going on and you're not sure what's happening, maybe just listen or avoid transmitting until you understand. Don't jump in blindly.
So these rules, they're not just arbitrary, are they? They seem designed to keep the whole system working for everyone.
That's exactly it. They maintain a functional, welcoming space. They prevent interference, ensure fairness, and ultimately preserve the bands for their intended purpose, communication, and experimentation. It's about community self-governance.
Let's zoom in on repeaters for a sec. You mentioned they're common on VHF, UHF. Using them has a slightly different feel, right?
It does, yeah. There's a specific technique. You press your PTT, the push-to-talk button,
Okay.
and then you wait just like half a second, and you start speaking.
Why the pause?
It gives the repeater time to fully activate. If you talk instantly, the first word or two might get cut off. So PTT, pause, talk up. Got it. PTT, pause, talk.
And equally important, leave short pauses between transmissions when you're talking back and forth with someone.
Why is that needed?
2 reasons. 1, it gives someone else a chance to break in if they have an emergency or just want to join. 2, repeaters have timers, often called a timeout timer. Leaving gaps lets that timer reset. If you talk nonstop back and forth too quickly, you might time out the repeater.
Okay, so the gaps are functional.
Very functional. So calling on a repeater might sound like, this is S21ABC calling on the repeater name repeater, any station monitoring.
And if nobody answers.
Just wait a few minutes and try again. Don't just keep keying up immediately. Give it some time. Patience is key in ham radio.
These are really practical points. Speaking of practical, any other sort of bonus tips or wisdom for beginners just starting out?
Oh, sure. A few things come to mind. First, if you can, practice. Practice with a friend who's also a ham, or better yet, join a local ham radio club.
Get some low-pressure practice in.
Exactly. Get comfortable with the PTT, the timing, saying your call sign. Clubs are fantastic resources. Also, listen for local nets. These are scheduled on-air meetings, often on repeaters at specific times. Great way to listen, learn, and eventually check in.
Like a regular meetup on the radio?
Precisely. Another thing, just basic courtesy. If you have a handheld radio, an HT, keep the volume low when you're in public. You don't want to blast everyone nearby with radio chatter.
Good point. Respect the non-hams around you.
Right. And one more, don't, specific to repeaters, avoid kerchunking.
Kerchunking? What's that?
That's when someone just quickly presses their mic button to make the repeater transmit its carrier or ID tone just to see if they can hit it, but they don't say their call sign.
Just testing the connection silently?
Yeah, but it's frowned upon. It ties up the repeater for no reason, and you're supposed to identify yourself anyway. If you need a test, just say your call sign briefly, like S21ABC testing.
Okay, no kerchunking. Got it. These tips really seem helpful for easing into the community smoothly. All right, so let's quickly recap what we've covered in this deep dive. We hit the absolute must-do of listening first.
Rule number 1.
We talked about how to call CQ on different bands, HF versus VHF, UHF, how to respond when someone answers, including that nifty 5x9 signal report.
And the QTH?
And QTH for location, right. We stressed the legal need to use your call sign frequently and at the end.
Can't emphasize that enough.
And we got through those golden rules, the key do's, like speaking clearly, being patient, logging contacts.
And the don'ts, like no interrupting, no politics, no hogging the frequency, and definitely no transmitting without a license or on forbidden bands.
Plus those specific repeater techniques like pausing after PTT and leaving gaps.
Mm-hmm. The little things that make a big difference on repeaters. And these guidelines, they might seem like just a list of rules, but they really aren't arbitrary. They're what allow this whole thing to work. They form the foundation of this really unique global community that's built on mutual respect and clear communication. It's the social fabric of the airwaves, really.
It makes you think, doesn't it? In a world that's often so full of noise, misunderstandings, just chaotic communication, what does it really mean to consciously build and maintain a space like ham radio, where clear, courteous communication isn't just, encouraged, it's actually required, legally mandated, and culturally valued? How does keeping these simple rules allow for these incredibly complex, often worldwide connections just through invisible radio waves? Something to ponder, perhaps, the next time you reach for that microphone.
Right.